episode number 211, Adventures in Support. What really supports you in music, in life, in health, in creativity, in your harping, and friendships, and in your own self-care with you? This is what we're going to explore today. I am Kathleen Wiley, a Jungian analyst in North Carolina, and I am here with Deborah Henson-Conant, a composer, a performer, and educator, also a wonderful mentor and entertainer and performer. And we both play the harp, and that is why we call this Jung at Harp. And we come together almost every week to explore a question. We start with a question, not with answers, because we know from our weekly conversations between us and with you that the art of conversation can allow answers and clarity to bubble up that will never bubble up if we think we know. So we invite you into our dialogue if you are watching live via the chat mechanism on whatever platform you're on. And if you're watching afterwards, you can find us on all of the podcast platforms. So support. And one thing I'd like to start with is that I do find that our conversations are supportive. And that when those of you who join in live offer your comments and thoughts, that feels supportive. That the art of relationship and the art of conversation, where there is a meeting around a particular topic, form, energy, that is support. So I just would like to start there. And every week, our engagement is an adventure. We don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah, and that's something that we've committed to, that we meet 15 minutes before, and then we have a quick conversation, and what do we want to explore? As you were speaking right now, Kathleen, the two words that came to me were together. Well, the first word that came to me was together, and then the other one was alone. And not feeling like we're alone and doing something together. And what's interesting to me is that I'm giving a class right now in it's called the Baroque Flamenco Challenge. What it really is teaching people a specific framework for music. And it's a framework that I discovered by accident in a moment when I was playing, and I suddenly had to have 4 or 5 times the amount of music that I actually had. Like, I had to make it look and sound like I had 4 or 5 times the amount of the ability to play. And I looked down at the music that I was playing, and I noticed the framework of the music. And I was able to see like, oh, wow, that there's a framework there. I could repeat that in this way, or I could open this up in this way. And it gave me the ability, I've been talking a lot about it. I can describe it in more detail, but it gave me the ability to literally suddenly expand what I was able to do. I don't know what incrementally means, but it seems like the right word here. It's a big word, incrementally. And so that I'm teaching that, and I'm getting, and because it's in a challenge is really fun because people are taking on these little bits every day, and then they comment at the end of the day, and I get to read their comments. So all these other people are having the same experience that I had. You know, I'm seeing like, oh, this is letting me do this, and oh, I'm going to do this with my husband, and oh, you know, they're seeing how it opens up all these possibilities. At the same time, I recently got a health diagnosis that made me see for the first time how stress is actually impacting my body. You know, until then I was like, oh, you should get more sleep, blah, 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 you know, it's more healthy, blah, blah, blah. But in my mind, I was like, but not me. I can, you know, and then I was like, no, yeah, you too. And this diagnosis became like that framework, something that immediately gave me, all I can say is a framework for actually doing something I had been incapable of doing before. Like, literally, I was incapable. I'd been trying. I had a buddy to try to get to sleep on time at night, but my goal had been get to bed by midnight, and like 2 a.m, I'd be like, well, I'm finally getting to sleep. I'd write to her. Finally, it was just like, nope, this is it. I end work at 10. I get to bed, you know, and then I started noticing other things, just like with the musical framework. The musical framework, and I'm just going to jump up here quickly and show it. I don't know if you can see me and hear me. And by the way, my exercises that I do every night, that's on that piece of paper. So the framework has two parts to it, and it was built this way. I mean, so that it was built like this. It's got a little classical melody. Can you hear it? I'm kind of far away.
Yeah, it's great. It sounds wonderful.
But then it had this alternating section that went like this, something like this. Sorry, like this. And I don't know if you can see, but my hand, I'll come a little bit closer. One of my hands, my left hand, is going down. It's starting here, it's going down a step, and then another step, and another step. And that's the framework. It just goes here, and then down a step, and down a step. And as I do it, I change the chords. So when I was doing this in this restaurant, where suddenly I had to play more, I was like, oh, these are 4 chords. I can do all kinds of things with 4 chords. I could play them longer. I could put a little melody on top. But I'm still following the same pattern. Oh, I could make them last twice as long. So that's what I was doing literally in this moment. I was taking the skills that I had and just expanding them. And then as time went on, as I kept doing it, I started realizing, wait, I could add rhythm. And flare and flash. And then every time I got lost, anytime I got lost, do this again. Come back to this thing I knew. And the piece ended up becoming this huge, flashy piece that I got a Grammy nomination with this piece. It's played by people all over the world. It's got all this. You know, it's now got, but then it always comes back. It comes back. So it was a framework. It wasn't just a piece of music, but it was a framework. And that framework allowed me to be solid in something, that little melody, and to know what I was improvising on. Mm-hmm. I was improvising on this set of chords. And when it first happened, I couldn't read music very well. So I had literally written the chords up above the bass line. And so in this moment, when I suddenly realized I had to play, you know, a waiter was there and he was saying, if you play those 4 tunes that you can play, if you play them over one more time, I'm going to pour this pitcher of water in your lap. And that's when I realized you can't just play the same 4 tunes over and over again. Anyway, I forgot what I was just saying, but this became, all I can say is it was a framework for creativity. And it was so simple. And as I kept playing with it over years and over years and over years, as my technique developed and as my desire for playing in different styles developed, the framework kept inviting me to use it to do the next thing. Mm-hmm. So I'm teaching this all week and I'm seeing people's ideas, you know, I'm seeing them expand, and I'm going to be teaching it all quarter. And I'm going to be teaching other pieces like adventures in improv. It's called a rondo form. Adventures in rondo improv, you know, is the next class that I'm teaching. But going back to this diagnosis, I noticed that because I have the diagnosis and because I'm committed to this diagnosis, me at the end of my life thinking, thank God I got that. You know, that was a really important moment in my life. What a beautiful support. What a framework. I've noticed that all these things are happening. So not only am I getting to bed early, but because I'm in bed, I'm starting to look at some of the books that I really love from my childhood.
Mm-hmm.
I just read a book about the history of photography, and I looked at this beautiful old book called The Family of Man. And because I do my exercises every night, I was listening to my favorite two of my favorite songs, The Monk and His Cat, and I was just listening to them on YouTube. And because of that, now I am in the morning, I love having, it's kind of like a pit crew for breakfast. My oatmeal is there and everything's together, and I go in and I pour it in and I feel like I'm, pit crew, put it all in the microwave, breakfast. And it's become this joy. So framework, that's why I wanted to, it's a support, it's an adventure. Both of these are adventures in support. Now tell me about that, Mrs. Jungian Psychoanalyst.
Well, yeah, I mean, part of what I was thinking as you were talking about it is your decision to relate to your diagnosis as an opportunity to improve your life. That idea is a supportive idea. So idea and framework, I was playing with those interchangeably for a minute. That our ideas do create frameworks, meaning they create a series of felt sense, of emotional responses, of expectations, of fantasies of what is and won't happen, that then can either support us or not support us. So our idea, our fundamental how we make meaning, that's how Jung would say it. You know, for Jung, he said that when humanity discovered their ability to make meaning, we had found our place in the universe and in the scheme of things. Because, you know, trees don't make meaning. My dog doesn't make meaning. They just do what they do, you know. But we human beings, because we have consciousness, we're always assigning meaning to things. So the meaning we assign is either supportive, can be supportive, and thus give rise to a supportive framework that allows us to live more fully, or we can assign a meaning that is not at all supportive and that sets in motion a framework that kind of squashes us energetically. So what I'm hearing is you made meaning of the diagnosis in the larger sense. Okay, this is an opportunity for me to make some changes that are going to actually help me thrive, that are going to help me do more of what I want to do and live more fully. And that's what I have to say about it. And how important it is, the idea, the meaning that we place on an event, because the framework flows from the meaning we've assigned.
Well, I'm listening to everything you say, and I'm stuck at the animals don't make meaning.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Because, and here's why, and I'm not sure where this fits in, if this is a tangent or not. So I had a cat. My ex left his cat, and I had never liked that cat. And I was trying to figure out how to give it away. And then I thought, let's see if I can have a relationship, some kind of relationship with it. And I decided, my therapist had just given me a book called Don't Shoot the Dog. It was about behavior modification. It was to help me modify my behavior, but it was all about clicker training. And I was like, let's see if we can train the cat. Let's just see. Because the cat was always hungry. So I knew that there was something. And watching our relationship, because he wanted to do what I wanted him to do, but he didn't understand. He didn't know the meaning of what I was saying. And so I would say, sit up, and he would just look at me. But when he did anything that was close to jumping up, I would click the clicker until it finally became that we had an understanding of meaning between us, what was sit up. And then we learned jump through hoop, and then we learned jump from chair to chair. But the beautiful thing to me was watching him have no idea what I was doing, or what I was saying, and the meaning of it. And then making a meaning out of it. So I don't know. So that I was stuck there. Now I get that this is different. I get that the cat didn't sit around and think about stuff.
Yeah, I mean, the behaviorists, if there are any behaviorists who are watching us, you can join in here. But I mean, I think that, again, I believe animals have consciousness. So, okay, I know my dogs have consciousness. But what you're describing with the clicker training, behavior modification is kind of a stimulus reward or it's a stimulus reward. It's a reinforcement. So there's an instinctive process. So instinctive means automatic and unconscious, which is meaning implies consciousness, and it implies valuing. Whereas the stimulus response is more about pleasurable and unpleasurable in terms of a physiological sense, and instinctive needs being met. But nonetheless, I hear what you're saying.
Well, and what you just said, what I really loved is that, yeah, so that would be instinct. Like if someone was training me, if there was somebody training me, that to do these new things that I've always wanted to do. And yet somehow this idea of standing up for myself, or actually that up until this moment, I had been like, nah, a body, you're just, who cares? And then suddenly it was like, no, wait a second. It does matter.
Mm-hmm.
So there was something about it does matter. It does make a difference. And I think I felt hopeless up until that point because I had really no success. I mean, I knew when I would go live with my grandmother every summer, I noticed my body would change. And I saw in retrospect what was happening, which was that everything was highly regulated with her. It was always at 8 a.m. Noon, lunch was at noon, dinner was at, I think, 5 or 6 or something. And just that regulation was so meaningful, made such a big difference. Yeah. And yet I could never make that happen in my life. I was unable. And I know that people will come to improv and they will hear it's just this, it's simple. You don't worry about playing wrong notes. But until they have a framework in which the framework becomes more compelling than the frustration of playing a wrong note, they can't do it. And until that waiter walked up to me and said, you're out of here. You're out of here if you keep doing this. But I knew it was possible. I mean, I kind of knew it was possible, but I didn't do it. That's.
Well, yeah. And again, for me, we're back to the meaning that we assign. I was playing last night some tunes. Most of my tunes are Irish tunes and I was playing a couple of tunes, and I suddenly, instead of going, back into the A part, I go halfway through the B part. But I kept going and it was beautiful. And John was listening to me. And when I finished, I laughed and said, didn't you? I just love the way I kept going. He said, yeah, and I was the only one who heard that it wasn't the right part. I mean, it's the meaning we assign. And I think early on, in learning the harp, for me at least, the meaning that got assigned is that the right note is everything. Well, the right note isn't everything. And I think if you're going to improvise, you have to give up the idea that the right note is everything, and there has to be a different framework to support the exploration. And so you and your cat had to find a way to communicate that worked for you, to have, from your perspective of the meaning, getting the behavior you wanted, and that worked in the cat's language and how the cat system operates, And so you found a way to bridge that difference. So we have to find a way to bridge the difference between the part of us that wants to play it just right, get just the right notes, and play it according to whatever standard we're being held to, whatever setting we're in. We have to be able to bridge that but wait a minute, what matters most for me in the improv is the beauty of the music. This is what I'm going to say. The beauty of the music and staying in the flow of the rhythm that's tied in to the fundamental structure of the song, the harmonic progression. So we have to find a different meaning to support us and allow us to let go to improvise. That's what I've had to do. Otherwise, it improvising, it takes a very different mindset than getting the right notes.
Yeah, that's interesting. As you were talking about playing with the form, I mean, you weren't intentionally playing with the form, but as you were talking about going into the other form, and of course nobody would know because nobody, and this is, I must say, this is one of the reasons I was absolutely committed to playing my own music once I started playing harp. And part of the reason for that is that I am incapable of memorizing. I can understand how a piece works and I could do something like it or approximate it fairly quickly. I mean, like I could hear the structure of a tune and then play back that structure, but memorizing what note you start on, it just doesn't work. It doesn't work. And so and part of the reason, and so I love playing my own music because nobody knows if I'm playing it right or wrong. But one of the things that was interesting in what you were saying was I was halfway through the B section instead of the A section. And I was thinking, I wonder how you would have felt if you'd made the decision to do that rather than not made the decision. Because it's an artistic decision someone could easily decide to make.
Right. Yeah.
So let's go. Shall we go back to our title, Adventures in Support? So let's go just to what you experienced last night. What was the adventure and what was the support?
Well, the adventure was just letting myself be in the flow and not holding myself to an exacting standard and feeling like I'd done something wrong. I mean, so for me, the adventure was in letting go. Tells you something about me. And for me, the support was the idea or the mindset or the meaning, whatever way we want to think about it, the meaning that I made of what happened. So the meaning I made of it is I was just in the flow of the music, and this is what I was hearing next in my mind body, and I went with it. And that was valid because my purpose, my intention is to really be in the flow of the music and express that. So the meaning I assigned to it was a support for this adventure that I didn't necessarily set out to have, but I did in a way. If my intention at sitting down to play is to enjoy the beauty of the harp and the beauty of the tune and the beauty of the moment, then that is a different mindset that I'm going to play this exactly right to make sure I've got it all technically blah, 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 and, all that. So,
I love so many things as you're speaking, so many images are coming. One is, well, if I set out to walk to the doctor's office, who knows what may happen on the way there. Like, for example, even though my cats are no longer living, I decided to stop in at the vet's and just say hello and hug the vet. And so new adventures happened. So that was interesting, in terms of adventure and support. The support was I'm on my way to the doctor's office and now I'm on my way back home. And on my way home, I stopped at the vet's office and said hello. And then I stopped at the cafe and I sat and I had, and like I realized I had my computer with me and I could do that. And it became an adventure. So the support, I guess, was the, what I set out to do. And the adventure is what I actually did while still doing that particular thing. So that was one of the things that I was thinking as you were speaking. I was trying to think of what else in terms of adventure and support. Oh, wow. I'm just thinking of suddenly all these images are coming to me like I probably look ridiculous anytime I go out, but ever since I've been a kid, I want to have everything with me. I want to have my backpack and I want to have Kleenex and I want to have fans just in case it gets hot. I want to have 2 fans just in case it gets hot so I can offer a fan to somebody else. There's all these things that I want to have. And And so I always kind of, and same when I'm running, like even if I'm running a couple miles, I just have my thing that whatever. Why am I saying that? Oh, so that I can be on the adventure, so that I can feel like it's okay to be on the adventure. And I think, I mean, that I'm not going to run out of something or whatever. But I just realized that that's the support of having a framework in music. And now after years and years and years of improvising, I have so many frameworks that can be pulled out at any moment, so many like sub frameworks, and that they can all fit on top of these. There's basically 3 structures or frameworks, maybe 3 or 4 that I use in music. One is the rondo form, which is what I'm teaching now, and I'll talk about it in a second. The other is the standard arrangement form, which is basic sonata form, whatever. There's just, and then there's story form, and then there's free form.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then there's other forms within it, like blues. You know, you sit down and play a blues, if the form is there, the structure, everything is there except for the playing. That's an amazing thing about blues. The form is always the same. You can play with anybody. You just say what key it is, and you can do it together. So having these, and these are the forms that I teach because they are support for adventure.
Mm-hmm.
And now that I have those, and then I have the little forms that could fit inside them, which I teach as snippets, improv snippets. So they're accompaniment patterns or melodic patterns. They're all the things that when you're like, oh my God, what am I going to do? That you can throw this thing in so that, okay, now I got my bearings. Okay, now I'm going to explore a little more. Got lost. Okay, put this thing in. It allows you, and it reminds me of what my friends who are like acrobats and physical performers talk about balance, that balance is always not about not falling, but it's about recovering quickly,
Mm-hmm.
so quickly that you no longer even experience that you're falling. But if you start to, you are so experienced in rebalancing.
So, yeah. So, but as you were talking and as you were giving the example of walking to the doctor's office, I was thinking how the word adventure, the root of it is Advent. Advent. And Advent is the beginning. It's an opening. It's something new. So adventure automatically means being open to something new. And as you've been talking all along, I keep thinking about, again, the idea of playing, which the analyst Winnicott, who was a pediatrician before he became a psychoanalyst, talked a lot about the importance of playing, that an adventure, an advent, something new, playing puts us into that frame of mind. And so then we go back to have that beginning and opening, something new being birthed, supported. And again, what are the frameworks, the ideas, the meanings, the structures that will allow us to relax into the new? Because, I think about my own schedule. Yesterday, between my Davidson office and my home office, I actually let myself stop in Academy Sports. That may not sound very exciting to anyone, but I'm always so regulated. My time schedule, my days tend to be so scheduled that it's like I've allowed enough time to get from here to here before the next appointment. Or, I've allowed enough time to get here, swim at the Y on the way home, then get home for the appointment. And so it's like I had this space where my normal MO would have been to just go straight to the Y, come straight home, do something else I needed to do on the computer, But instead, I let myself have this little side trip to buy some new sneakers. I mean, really doesn't sound very exciting. However, what was exciting for me was that I let myself relax. I supported myself and something new, an advent, something new, something out of the normal routine, something that wasn't penciled in. I got 30 minutes to go do this, and then I got to get back. And so I think that part of the support for an adventure is somehow being able to relax into an opening. And an advent is an opening. Adventure is an opening.
I love so much about this. So what I'm hearing is there are words for this in music, but the one that comes to my mind, just because it's part of what I'm doing, is a cadenza. A cadence is kind of where you come to a stop, but a cadenza is where you make a big thing out of that stop. And so I'm thinking, and there is space for that. There are interludes, but cadenza, I feel like me stopping in at the vet and me stopping in at the cafe were cadenzas, just like for you going in and doing this, buying new shoes. It was this moment of something that was on the way, but it was an adventure. And it was supportive. Like, it's not like you were like, geez, what am I going to do today? I have nothing to do today. I guess I'll go buy some shoes. No, the support for you and the support for me was, here's this thing that I've committed to doing. My life is this commitment. And here's this space in it for adventure. And I feel like that's what the framework, the musical framework, and I'm feeling like I'm hearing this now, the musical framework does not constrain you. And this, the diagnosis of, that means like, yeah, you got to get more sleep and you got to watch this and you've got to do this. It does not constrain me. It actually supports. Yes. And I'm discovering all kinds of things about myself, like that even if I'm sitting in my chair and I get up and I do some exercises, my blood pressure will come down, because maybe that happens for everyone. But for me, I guess I need to be moving around in order to feel healthy. So I'm actually learning things about myself. I learned last night that laughter makes a huge spike in blood pressure. Know that, but then it comes way down afterwards. So adventures, what I'm getting is an adventure. An adventure is what you make of it. You let yourself stop and get shoes, and you experienced it, I think, as an adventure, as something fun.
I did. And, my good rigid self that wants to keep myself in a little box and on schedule, as I'm sitting through these stoplights, even trying to get from the exit to the store, which, by the way, is off the same exit I take to go to the water swim. Okay. But it's in the opposite direction. As I'm sitting through these lights that are taking a lot longer than I want, I'm thinking, oh, I should just bail on this. I don't have time to do this, blah, blah, blah. And then I have to, I'm forced. I have to keep going in that direction. And then I get in the parking lot and I say to myself, Kathleen, go in the store. I'm telling y'all about my neurosis here. So part of the support for the adventure is I had to keep saying to myself, it's okay. It's okay to do something outside of the normal routine, different from what I normally do. Now, I know all this cognitively, but the way that I operate in the world is this is the way I'm doing it. You've had to make a shift to say, it's okay to stop work at 10 o'clock. I'll still get everything I need to do done. It'll sort itself. And so I think part of it is that supporting ourselves, and that it's okay to let go of the schedule, the tightness, space. I mean, we're going to have to stop here in 3 or 4 minutes, but space is so important. And your rondo form gives space. I mean, that's the beauty. There is the melody where you're playing the right notes, but there's so much space before it with the opening you create. There's so much space with the improv in the middle. There's so much space at the end with the cadenza. And so adventures in support also, for me, begin with the mindset that I need space, and taking the space is good. It's healthy. Taking the space, whether it's to speak to the vet, to get to bed early, to, tend a little bit more to your diet or whatever. We get squeezed out in our world, and with all technology and media and everything that's coming at us so fast, it's so easy for us to be squeezed out. And so we even lose any sense then of that there is an opening for the self we are, the musician we are, the person we are, the partner we are, to emerge.
I love this. And what I'm hearing in what you said a word. I keep hearing it over and over again, and what the people in the challenge are saying. And I realize it's the word that is coming to me. And that is, I had to give up doing it perfectly.
Yeah.
And you gave up doing your day perfectly.
Right.
What happens when I go to bed at 10 is I say to my team, we're not going to do it perfect. And letting go of it, I would stay up and perfect things.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to think of what else. There was another instance, but so I guess what I'm hearing here, you're talking about the opening, and I'm thinking about, yes, and the framework. When you're focused on the framework or the meaning of what you're doing, in a sense, then you're able to give up the moment to moment thing that might not be working perfectly.
Yeah.
And that's a different kind of space, another beautiful kind of space. And then finding, like you said, that moment that opens up out of it. And what I love and what you're saying, and now that I want to say this to everyone in the challenge, and then music reflects life. This particular form of music, I think, reflects life, and we can actually practice life in it.
Yes.
And do it in our own way, because people will get stuck in someone yesterday was saying, well, I can't do it with the rhythm that you're doing it. And I'm like, oh, the rhythm is like I'm wearing a striped shirt and you're not. It's just, that's not that you do it in any different way. So also seeing where the openings are. So I am going to start looking for, what are the frameworks that are supporting me, and let myself be supported by it. And honestly, this one in music has been with me my whole life. It's given me support my entire life, and it continues to. And so it is possible that this one thing that's shifted in my life right now, if I just let it permeate everything, that you don't need a lot of them.
That's right.
And then I'm going to really think about how that supports me not getting engaged in perfectionism, which stresses me and closes me, and where are the openings, and actually step into those openings.
Yes. Yeah. I was sitting here thinking, and so the adventures in support, it's like opening, relaxing, letting go, playing, meaning, and then the structure or the framework that comes from it. And that's, yeah.
And I was going to say that before, that was the one thing I wanted to add. Games all have a structure.
Yeah.
Sorry, I interrupted you. So
no, that's okay.
Those things again, it was the opening, it was the freedom, it was the support, and it was letting the framework give you the place to play.
Right. Yeah. And we can do that in our daily life, like the examples we've been playing with and sharing, and we can do it in our music. And what you're teaching in Hip Hop Academy and the rondo form offers that, because we do need the structure. And sometimes it requires the structure before we can relax and be willing to step into the opening and make meaning of what's. So it's the when I listed them, it's not necessarily linear, they're more holographic. And sometimes we start from one position, other times we start from the other, but somehow they all come together, and then we are having an adventure that's supported.
As you were speaking, I thought about this chasm that people often feel is improv. And I was thinking, like, if you stand on here and you say to somebody, walk across that, when there's nothing there, it's terrifying. But if you can give them something to walk on, then they can first walk, and then they can dance, and then they can walk with others. And that's what I saw in what you were saying. Thank you, Kathleen.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for another wonderful episode. Will you be here next week?
No, I'm going to be at a professional meeting next week, but in 2 weeks.
Okay. might come on my own. I do like to connect each week. I always miss you when you're not here, and I'll look forward